Yes, I found it. So I have started the recording. So Charlie is telling us that he was quite normal. When he turned into the Grand Central from that place is Vanderbilt Avenue, and then he goes down the staircase and he goes to the first level at the railway station, where you take the trains like the 20th century. How you take the trains now? Similarly, I also took the train. I walked there. I didn't take the train, but I walked down from the first level. Then I walked down another flight to the second level. So first he went to the first level, then he went to the second level at the railway station, then where the suburban trains leave from, ducked into arched doorway heading for the subway. Ducked into, he bent down a little bit and took a way and went to that subway. And when he entered the subway, he says, I got lost. So the subway is a very important place in this lesson where he started dreaming now. Now let us see what was his dream, where he has reached. That's easy to do. I have been in and out of Grand Central hundreds of times. That is easy to go to the first level, to go to the second level. It is the everyday story for me, he says. It is not a rocket science. And this is easy to do, going to the first level first and then going to the second level. And I have been in and out of Grand Central hundreds of times. But I am always bumping into new doorways and stairs and corridors. Once I got into a tunnel about a mile long and came out in the lobby of the Roosevelt Hotel. Another time I came up in an office building on 46th Street, 3 blocks away. Sometimes it happens, even at the, if you have seen the Shivaji, this Chhatrapati Shivaji terminus also, there are so many platforms and sometimes you get confused. Suddenly you go to some other road. And the same thing he's telling us, it had happened many times. I wanted to go somewhere else, but I have reached some other place. Sometimes I think Grand Central is growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases like roots. Yes, he's saying that it has become a big network. Naturally, Grand Central is a very, very huge station. There are many platforms. There are many, trains coming up, suburban trains, local trains. So he's comparing the Grand Central to a tree, and he's saying that it is, it is making new corridors and new staircases every now and then, like the roots of the trees. There is probably a long tunnel that nobody knows about, feeling its way under the city right now on its way to Times Square and maybe another to Central Park. He's saying, talking about a tunnel which goes to the Times Square, which is a very, very popular destination in New York, and also the Central Park. And maybe because for so many people through the years, Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape, means to go out. It has become a way to go out. Maybe that's how the tunnel I got into, but I never told my psychiatrist friend about that idea. Now he's gone already to the world, to the different world, but he has not told about this to his friend. The corridor I was in began angling left and slanting. Now see what he's experiencing. He's saying that literally the way the corridor had begun angling means begin bending and slanting downward. And I thought that was wrong, but I kept on walking. Actually, he's walking on the subway, but he's dreaming now. For him, the corridor is bending, the road is slanting downward. Okay. And he also feels that it is wrong, but he kept on walking. So please remember, he's very much normal. He's walking on the subway, but his subconscious mind has gone in the dream now. All I could hear was the empty sound of my own footsteps. Now there are so many people walking on the subway, but what he's saying now, he was able to hear only his own footsteps, means there was silence there. and I didn't pass a soul. There was nobody, he says. I didn't pass a soul means none, there were no person on the road, on the subway. I was alone there. Then I heard that sort of hollow roar ahead. That means open space and people talking. And now he's entered to that world where there are people and there is, a kind of open space, and people are there. Otherwise, you will, it's very difficult to find open space at the Grand Central. It is always crowded place. But now he's saying he could see the open space and there are people talking. The tunnel turned sharp left. I went down a short flight of stairs and came out on the third level of Grand Central Station. Now he's on the third level of the Grand Central. Actually, this third level is not there at all. There are only two levels. There are only two important roads there, ways, but he's gone to the third level. For just a moment, I thought I was back on the second level, but I saw the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking. Now he has gone some years back. And now he's saying there were very few people, and there is a very ordinary ticket window, you know, and there were very few people. There was enough space. The information booth, which was at the center, it was made up of wood and it was old looking. And the man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. He was wearing that coat, a green color green coat he was wearing. The lights were dim and a sort of flickering. Actually, those lights were not electric lights, they were gas lamps. Then I saw why were they flickering. They were open flame gas lights. So he has gone centuries back when the railway station was very ordinary, and when there were steam engines and very few people on the railway station. Even the information booth was made up of wood and old fashioned, and there were very the dim lights, and the lights were the open flame gas lights. There were the gas lamps which were on the railway station. There were brass spittoons on the floor. Spittoons means where the people spit. Usually it is kept on the railway station, but here the spittoons were made up of brass. And across the station, a glint of light caught my eye. A man was pulling a gold watch from his vest pocket. Now see, he sees a man who's having a gold pocket, this gold watch, and that gold watch is in his vest pocket, in the pocket of his pant. And he sees that this man is pulling out the gold watch. He snapped open the cover, glanced at his watch, and frowned. Now you just imagine who will wear such kind of watches now. We have all very modern and electronic watches, but here the man is having a watch which is made up of gold, and that too the watch is in his pocket. He removes the watch from the pocket. He snaps means he opens the cover and he watches the time, and he's little bit angry. He wore a derby hat, a kind of hat which is worn by the people who are in the race course, horses. This man he was wearing a derby hat, a black four-button suit with tiny lapels, and he had a big black handlebar mustache. He is describing the man, and he was having a big mustache. He had a black big mustaches also, and he was having a he was wearing this derby hat and all. Such this is a very old fashioned kind of thing he's now seeing in his dream. Then I looked around and saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890 something. So quite old, he's telling. Everybody was dressed like 1890 something, means kind of, he had gone back in 1890s. I never saw many beards, sideburns, and fancy mustaches in my life. All of this they were having some fancy beards, fancy mustaches, sideburns means, which are on the side of your this thing, heads, so such kind of hairstyle he had not seen. A woman walked in through the train gate. She wore a dress with leg of mutton sleeves and skirts to the top of her high buttoned shoes. So this woman was also very different. The dressing was also very different. Back of her, out on the tracks, I caught a glimpse of a locomotive, a very small Carrier and Ives locomotive. This is the steam engine, which is now seeing the steam engine, which was not there in this time, modern time. It was almost, he had gone back, and that's why he sees a steam engine, a locomotive, a train with a funnel shaped stack. And then I knew. To make sure, I walked over to newsboy and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet. Yes, we usually see that, men sitting on the railway station selling the newspapers. And the same thing he says, to make sure, to confirm himself, he goes to a newsboy, means a boy who's sitting there and who's selling the newspapers, and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet, the heap of papers. It was "The World, and the World hasn't been published for years." So the newspaper was The World, you can see in the picture. And this was a very old newspaper, which wasn't published these years. The lead story said something about President Cleveland of US. It was speaking about him, the newspaper. I have found that front page since in the public library files, and it was printed in June 11, 1894. Once in the library, he had seen these kinds of papers, newspapers, and the date he remembers, it was June 11, 1894. So all these instances tell us that he is dreaming now while he's walking. He sees the newspaper, which is a very old newspaper. Then he sees the locomotives, the Carrier and Ives locomotive, the steam engine. And then he sees a woman who's very weirdly dressed, a man. All these pictures tell us that he has gone in 1890s. I turned toward the ticket windows, knowing that here on the third level at Grand Central, I could buy tickets that would take Louisa and me anywhere in the United States we wanted to go. So he goes to the ticket window and he says that he wanted to buy the tickets, and the tickets were able to take him and his wife Louisa to any parts of United States. In the year 1894, and I wanted two tickets to Galesburg, which is in Illinois. So he wanted to take the tickets. He goes to the ticket window. Here, you have ever been there? Have you ever been there? It's a wonderful town still. Galesburg. He's telling about Galesburg, which is in Illinois. He says that it's a wonderful town with big gold frame houses. Big houses are there, big bungalows are there, huge lawns are there, are beautiful gardens around the houses, and tremendous trees whose branches meet overhead and roof the streets like a canopy. There are huge trees also, as if they are making the roof on the streets. They are so huge. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long, and people sat out on their lawns, the men smoking cigars and talking quietly, and the women waving palm leaf fans with the fireflies all around. Now, when these people are sitting in the garden, in the lawns, in their houses, so the men are smoking the cigars and the women are waving the palm leaf fans just to, uh, you know, get rid from those fireflies which are flying around. And it is a peaceful world. Now, see, he's telling us, he's talking about Galesburg in those days in 1894, and it is a very peaceful world. Now, see, all this is, we can see that he wants peace and tranquility in his life. He's tired of his life. He's tired of everything, the office work and the traffic on the road and other difficulties in life. And he's gone to the third level just to seek peacefulness. Now, to be back there with the First World War still 20 years off, and the World War Second over 40 years in the future. So they're talking about 1894. We know that the First World War began in 1914. So the First World War was still 20 years off. And we know that the Second World War, I think it started somewhere in 1839 or something. and it ended in 1845. So he's talking about the first and the Second World Wars, which were still 20 years and 40 years ahead. I wanted two tickets for that. He wanted two tickets for Galesburg now. He wants to go to Galesburg, which is, very quiet and very peaceful place. Now let us see what happens when he goes to the ticket window. The clerk figured the fare. He calculated the amount of the money. He glanced at my fancy hat band. Charlie is telling her that he has worn a hat and it has a band also. So the clerk who's sitting in that old fashioned ticket counter, he looks at his hat, but still he figured the fare, the amount of the ticket. And I had enough for two coach tickets one way. Charlie saying he had enough money to buy two tickets because he wanted one for him and his wife Louisa. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was staring at me, looking angrily at me. He nodded at the bills. That ain't money, mister, he says. This is not the money. This is not the money, he said. And if you're trying to skin me, if you're trying to fool me, you won't get very far. I will hold you and give you to the policeman, he says. You can't run away. Now, the thing is, Charlie is giving him the currency of this time, modern time, during his time. But the station is of 1894. And the conductor, the ticket checker, the person who's sitting to give the tickets also, he says that this money is not the real money. You're fooling me. And if you're doing this, I will not leave you. And he glanced at the cash drawer beside him. Of course, the money was old style bills in his drawer. The money was old style, half again as big as the money we use nowadays. Very huge size of notes and all were there, and very different looking. The currency was very different looking. I turned away and got out fast. He started running now because the clerk had already fired him for giving the wrong currency. And the clerk feels that it is a fake currency, and so he says, if you do this, I will catch you and give you to the policeman. So he starts running now. I turned away and got out fast. He started running. There's nothing nice about jail, even in 1894. Yes, he says that even in 1894, the prison was very difficult. It was nothing nice about the jail. So he starts running from there. And that was that. I left the same way I came, I suppose. I suppose he's saying. So he's not sure. Next day during lunch hour, I drew $300 out of the bank. Now see what he's doing. Now this is the real time now. He withdraws $300 from the bank. Nearly all we had, all the money he withdraws from the bank and bought old style currency. You remember about the clerk? So what he does, he goes and he changes his currency for the old style currency. That really worried my psychiatrist friend. Now his psychiatrist friend is not getting why is he changing so much of money. $300 was not a small amount, and it was all his possession. Whatever he had, he'd withdrawn, and he was exchanging for the old style currency. You can buy old money at almost any coin dealers, he says. It is that facility was there, so he could go and he could exchange the currency, but you have to pay a premium. But for that, you have to pay some extra. Now, for example, if you want 100 rupees old currency, you have to pay 150. So that kind of, some extra money you were supposed to pay a premium. So he does all that. My $300 bought less than 200 in old style bills. So the extra $100 he had just paid as the premium. He got only 200 old style bills, old style currency. But I didn't care. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1994 because he says now, I didn't bother because there was not much, the prices were very normal, very less. And he says that I could afford everything. So he tells us that eggs were very cheap. They were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. So he says this much of money will suffice me. He doesn't bothers about losing or paying extra money, extra dollars in exchange of this old style bills. All this is going on in his imagination, remember. But I have never again found the corridor that leads to the third level at Grand Central Station, although I have tried often enough. Now, the next day he goes and he gets the old currency, and now he has passed the first level, the second level, and now he wants to go to the third level, but now he's not finding the road. He's not finding the level. I have never again found the corridor, again that entrance which led me to the third level at the Grand Central Station, although I have tried enough times. Louisa, he's telling us about his wife now. Louisa was pretty worried when I told her all this and didn't want me to look for the third level anymore. I'm sorry. And after a while, I stopped. I went back to my stamps. Now he's telling that even his wife was not ready to believe in this story of the third level. And she tells him to forget all this, and to stop believing in all these fantasies. And so I went back to my stamps. He goes to the stamps where he had stored the stamps at home. He goes there. I went back to my stamps. But now we are both looking every weekend because now we have proof that the third level is still there. Again, he's thinking about the same thing. He is believing that there is the third level, he says. Why? We will see. My friend Sam Wiener disappeared. Sam Wiener is his psychiatrist. Remember, he had told him that it is, walking dream wish fulfillment. Now he's disappeared. He's not there. Nobody knew where, but I sort of suspected because Sam's a city boy and I used to tell him about Galesburg. I went to school there and he always said he liked the sound of the place, and that's where he is, all right, in 1894. Now he's saying that I'm very much sure where is Sam. Nobody knows, but I know he's in Galesburg because I used to tell him about Galesburg, how I went to the school there, and how it sounds so nice and all. He's saying, I'm very much sure that Sam has been to Galesburg, and that to Galesburg of 1894. Because one night, fussing with my stamp collection, I found, well, do you know what a first day cover is? Now he's telling about the first day cover. Now, what is first day cover? When a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors buy some stamps and use them to mail envelopes to themselves on the very first day of sale, and the postmark proves the date. And this is called as the first day cover. So, people who have the hobby of stamp collecting, whenever a new stamp is issued, these people, what they do, they take those stamps and they put it on the envelopes and they post it to themselves so that they can get the stamp also, and the postmark proves the date also. Usually the stamps are, they have the dates, and this is called as the first day cover, he tells. And they are never opened. You just put blank paper in the envelope. Yes, nothing is written in that envelope. It is just posted to get the postal stamp. And this is called as the first day cover, he tells. That night, among my oldest first day covers, I found one that shouldn't have been there. So even he was also doing the same thing. Whenever there was an issue of new stamps were sold, he used to go and he used to post down an envelope for himself so that he could collect the stamps. And he was just searching this, and he found that one shouldn't have been there. One should not have been there. From where it has come, he says. But there it was. There was one envelope. It was there because someone had mailed it to my grandfather at his home in Galesburg. So his grandparents were staying at Galesburg, and we know that his grandfather was also fond of collecting the stamps, and he sees this envelope which was mailed to his grandfather when his home was at Galesburg, and that's what the address on the envelope said. So address was of Galesburg, and this envelope belonged to his grandfather, and it had been there since July 18, 1894. The postmark showed that. Date was there on the stamp. Yet I didn't remember it at all. At all. The stamp was a 6 cent, dull brown, with a picture of President Garfield, a very old stamp, and it was depicting the picture of the president of that time. His name was Garfield in 1894. Naturally, when the envelope came to granddad or grandfather in the mail, it went right into his collection and stayed there till I look it out and opened it. So naturally, the moment it had come in those days, it had gone to grandfather's collection. And now I took it out and opened it. The paper inside wasn't blank. He tells us usually the stamp collectors, they don't put anything on the envelope. They just put a blank paper. Their motive is to collect the new stamps. So they don't write anything, only they put a blank paper so that they could get the stamps. But here it was something different. He says that the envelope was very different, which was mailed to his grandfather. And he says the paper inside wasn't blank. Now, what was written in it on it in the paper, we will see. Now, see the address also: 941 Willard Street, Galesburg, Illinois, July 18, 1894. Charlie. Now, it was very surprising. This letter was written to Charlie, and but the letter belonged to his grandfather, which was in 1894. Charlie, I got to I got to wishing that you were right. Then I got to believing you were right. And Charlie, it's true. I found the third level. I have been here 2 weeks, and right now, down the street at the Defi, someone is playing a piano, and they are off out on the front porch singing, seeing Nelly home, and I'm invited over for lemonade. Come on back, Charlie and Louisa. Keep looking till you find the third level. It's worth it, believe me. Now, this letter is a kind of invitation for him to Galesburg, and he's describing all those things that people are sitting in the porch and they're singing songs. Some of them are playing piano. It is a very cool place, very quiet place, wonderful place. And he's been invited to have a lemonade, to have a kind of drink. And so he's inviting Charlie and Louisa. He says that there is the third level. You come, and it is worth coming here. Believe me, he says. And see who has signed it. The note is signed Sam. So he thinks that this letter is written by his psychiatrist friend Sam. At the stamp and coin store I go to, I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old style currency. He gets the information at the coin store, and he comes to know that Sam has also exchanged the currency of $800, and he had purchased the old style currency. That out to set him up in a nice little hay, feed and grain business. He always said that's what he really wished he could do. He wanted to do some business of the grain, and he certainly can't go back to his old business. Once he had said that he liked the to do this business and all, but now he has purchased the old currency dollar so that he can start his old business again. Not in Galesburg, Illinois in 1894, his old business. Why? Sam was my psychiatrist. So here we come to an end, and we have seen how he has gone in the different world. This is about the story, psychological, those dreams in his mind, and all this is his imagination. Even he feels that his friend, his psychiatrist friend, has joined him, and he has gone to Galesburg and he has started his old business, which he was interested, and he's inviting them. And that is why he was escaping from the harsh realities, the difficulties of life, and want to go to Galesburg, which is a quiet and serene place. So I'll just, everybody understood, we'll discuss some more points of the story. We'll just discuss some more points about the story, and then we'll go to the question answers. So remember, this is the story of Charlie. He goes to the third level at Grand Central Station. Actually, Grand Central Station had only two levels in real life. Remember, in real life, in practical life, the station had only two levels, and which the president of the New York Central and the New York and New Haven and Hartford railroads would, they have also declared it that it has only two levels. There is no third level. But Charlie says he himself has seen on the he himself has been on the third level. Now remember, Charlie is the protagonist of the story. He's the narrator, and he's telling us the entire incident. He's telling us this incident with his friend psychiatrist, whose name is Sam, and who said that he was trying to escape the burden of the present reality. So remember Charlie and Sam, two characters, and the place, the setting, the New York Central Station, Grand Central Station, sorry. And he's telling the story, entire incident, what happened there. Then he has also told us about the stamp collection. Actually, it is a kind of proof that he needed to refuge from reality, a kind of, moving away from the harsh reality. He has the hobby of collecting the stamps. But at the same time, he says that his grandfather also had this hobby. And during his time, there were no wars, there were no worries, no tensions. And there was no need for his grandfather to refuge, to go in some refuge from reality, because the things were very peaceful and simple during his times. And he tells us that his grandfather started collection of the stamps not out of insecurities, but it was his hobby. And also he tells us that even President Roosevelt collected the stamps. And why would Roosevelt have worries and tensions? He was the president of US, but still he collected the stamps. And so he is not ready to accept that he was running away from the harsh realities of life. Then he tells us about the incident while returning from his work. What happened? He decided to go to the subway, and then he tells us that instead of going by bus, he takes the subway so that he could reach home. And he also tells that he was a very ordinary man, ordinarily dressed. He tells us about the Grand Central Station, how it is growing like a tree. Every now and then there are new corridors and there are new doors, there are new platforms. And then he tells us how he was walking through a secret tunnel and he reaches to the third level of the station. And when he has reached the third level, he sees that there is a small room and there are very few ticket windows, and there is only one information booth. There are very few gates also, and all were very old looking, and they were made up of wood. And the station was dim lit. There was no enough light because there was no electricity, and there were open flame gas lights. He gives the description of that station, which was in the third level. And he also tells us that the people were old fashioned. They were dressed in old fashioned clothing, and the spittoons were also made up of brass. Usually now, if you see on the station, they are made up of steel, but in those days the spittoons were made up of brass and they were kept everywhere. People had fancy mustaches and beards. Then he is also a little bit suspicious when he sees the newspaper, The World, and he remembers the instance of the newspaper which was he had seen in the library, and it had dated it was 1894. The date was 1894. And then he realizes that this is the 1890s. He tells us. Now actually he wanted to go to Galesburg, and he wants to take his wife also, Louisa, with him. And that's why he wanted to purchase the ticket to go to Galesburg. And when he looks for tickets to the ticket counter, then he finds that the currency was very different, and the currency was of the old times. And suddenly the next day, what he does, he goes to the coin store, and he converts his this present currency to the old currency. And when he tells everything to his wife gets disturbed. She tells him not to believe in all those things. He does not find the third level again the next day. When he goes with the old currency, he doesn't find it. And his wife is very much worried now. When he tells about this, when he goes home and he tells her that I didn't find the third level today. Now she is very much worried. Then he gets distracted himself with the stamps. We know that he goes to the stamp drawer and he takes out the stamps. He finds the envelope there. And somehow Sam, the psychiatrist, disappeared out of the blue. Suddenly his friend is disappeared. He tells us that Sam has gone. He's disappeared. And this is the third level, kind of summary you can say. It describes the repercussions of the war also. Yes, in those days, the third level, it is, there were constant wars going on. There were tensions around. So it describes the repercussions of the war also, this lesson. And it shows the urge of people wanting to live in a peaceful environment without stress, without fear, and without anxiety. Everybody understood the lesson?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll discuss the question answers now. And if we have time, then we'll go to Deep Waters, which is also a very interesting story, very simple story. Let us see some question answers so that, yes, time travel. Yeah, correct. We'll see the question answers and then we'll go to the Deep Waters, which is also a very interesting story. Remember the first lesson, the third level by Jack Finney. Remember the characters in the story. It is a psychological story. Just want to get rid from the harsh realities. It also tells us the repercussions of the war. It was the war time. People were full of fear, scare, anxieties, and they just wanted to, go away from those worries and tensions to a silent and peaceful place. We'll see the NCRT solutions for this. The first last question will go. The questions are on page number 7. These are some extra questions. We'll see one or two questions and then we'll go to our reading with insight, the actual exercise, but we'll see some questions. What does the third level refer to? What is the significance of the third level? They're asking us what it refers to. The third level is a medium of escape through which man yearns to be away from life's harsh realities. The third level is nothing but an escape from the reality. Is devoid of peace
Sir, you're here.
Sir, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, I was on mute. On mute. I'm extremely sorry. Okay. We are discussing the question answers, kind of, just we'll see few questions. Okay, we'll see the questions which are on page number 7. One second. Yes, we were seeing these questions. I was reading the second one. How was the third level different from the second level? There were very few ticket counters, ticket windows, less train gates were there. The rooms were comparatively smaller rooms. The information booth in the center, it was made up of wood. There were brass spittoons, and the light was very dim. The lights were not the electric lights, but they were open flame, gas flames. So all this made him sure that this is the third level. How does Charlie, the narrator, describe the third level? The same thing again. There was all these things again, the same things you have to describe. How did Charlie make sure that he was not in the present time? Yes, very important. When he goes to that newsboy, he sees the newspaper, and the newspaper was The World, which was a very old edition, which he had seen in the library. So let us see the answer. How did Charlie make sure that he was not in the present time? He had gone in 1890s. To make sure that he was not in the present time, Charlie did a reality check. What did he do? He looked at the newspapers which were on the sale at a kiosk at that center. A boy was sitting there, and he found a copy of the newspaper, The World, which carried the main story on President Cleveland. And this he from this he confirmed that this was the third level. Then he confirmed from the public library files that the newspaper he had seen was dated 11 June 1894. So next day when he goes to the normal life, he goes to the library and he confirms that The World was the newspaper which was printed in 1894. And that is how he confirms that that was the third level. How did Charlie often get lost in the Grand Central Station? The Grand Central Station was growing like a tree, he tells us, and it was pushing out endless corridors, doorways, number of staircases, number of outputs and inputs. There were so many doors there, and it was like a plant or a tree spreading out the roots. It had intricate, means complicated and tangled, confused pathways. The network of passages was so complicated that instead of reaching his destination, one tend to move up and down to look for entries and exits. Yes, for me, I was actually new in Mumbai, so it used to happen to me when I used to be at, this CST railway station. I used to get confused. So the same thing used to happen at Grand Central also, because there were many corridors and doorways there. So Charlie often he used to get lost in the station. Why did Charlie suspect that Sam had gone to Galesburg? How did he suspect that? He tells us that Sam has suddenly disappeared. When Sam disappeared all of a sudden, and no one knew about his whereabouts, where he has gone, nobody knew. And Charlie suspected that he had gone to Galesburg. Why? As Sam was a city boy and liked Galesburg very much. Usually they used to converse that even Sam used to tell that I like Galesburg and it is a very quiet place, a very serene place, silent place. And that's why Charlie suspects that Sam must have gone to Galesburg because he was also from a city which was full of rush and chaos and everything. Then Charlie found an envelope mailed to Sam by his grandfather. We have read that. We have seen that the envelope which was mailed to Sam and it was by his grandfather from his home in Galesburg. And so it confirmed that Sam was indeed in Galesburg. This is all his imagination. Please remember, Charlie's imagination. He feels that his grandfather has written an envelope to Sam. And when he opens it, he sees the letter and Sam inviting them to Galesburg. And this is how Charlie suspects that Sam had gone to Galesburg. How does Charlie describe Galesburg as it used to be in 1894? Quiet, simple, and peaceful place. Galesburg, a very quiet place, a very simple and peaceful place with big old frame houses, houses with wooden frames, and there were huge lawns and gardens, tremendous trees. The summer evenings were longer, and people used to sit out in their lawns in the peaceful world. Men were smoking cigars, and women waving palm leaf fans. So this description he gives us about Galesburg, which used to be in 1894. What did Charlie learn about Sam from the stamp and coin store? What did he find out? From the stamp and coin store, you remember he goes to the coin store also and he confirms that Sam has exchanged $800. So what did he learn from this? From the stamp and the coin store, Charlie gets to know that Sam had bought old style currency and it was worth $800, and the money was sufficient to set him up in the little hay feed and grain business in Galesburg. So he wanted to start the grain business, and that's why he had exchanged this currency to the old currency, and he's gone to Galesburg to start his business, the grain business. How did Sam reach Galesburg? What did he advise Charlie to do? Sam was fascinated by Charlie's description of Galesburg. He was so burdened by the tensions and stress of modern life that he thought of escaping to the peaceful world of Galesburg. Even the psychiatrist has gone to the Galesburg. He's so much fascinated by the description of Galesburg that he's also gone there. His advice to Charlie is that he, that is Charlie, and his wife Louisa should come over to Galesburg through the medium of the third level. Now see, Charlie has imagined that Sam has also gone to Galesburg and he has also gone there through the third level. And now he is inviting him and his wife Louisa to come over there through the third level. Why did the booking clerk refuse to accept the money? We know that the currency was very different because the notes Charlie had given him were old style. He did not pay in the currency notes that were in the circulation in 1894. They were the modern currency. So the clerk stared at him and told him that this isn't the money, mister. This is not the money. He thought Charlie was trying to cheat him. And even, that clerk, he threatens him. He even threatened him to get arrested. And then you remember Charlie tells us that prisons or jails were not good in 1894. So he starts running away from there. Why did Charlie rush back from the third level? When Charlie took out the modern currency to pay for the 2 tickets to Galesburg, the ticket clerk accused him of trying to cheat him. He threatened to hand Charlie over to the police. He says that you're cheating. If you're cheating, you will be handed over to the police. And so he runs away from there. Charlie was frightened and he decided to rush back from the third level. Otherwise, he would be arrested and put in the prison. And that is how he comes out of the third level and comes back to normal life. Now we'll see some big questions, the questions which have to be answered in 120 or 120, 150 words. How did Charlie reach the third level of Grand Central, and how the third level was different from the other level, first and second level? One night, Charlie worked till late at the office. He was working for extra time in the office. Then he was in a hurry to get back to the apartment, to his house. Apartment means house. So he decided to take the subway from the Grand Central. He went down the steps and came to the first level. Then he walked down to the second level from where the suburban trains left. He ducked into the arched doorway. He bent down. Ducked means he bent down a little, and there was an arched doorway. And then he reached to the subway. Then he got lost, knowing that he was going wrong. He continued to walk downward. He is at the Grand Central Railway Station, which is a very big railway station. And then the tunnel turned a sharp left. Then, taking a short flight of stairs, he came out to the third level at the Grand Central Station. Here he saw many unusual things. There were very few ticket windows and train gates. There were old-fashioned, old-looking, made up of wood. There were dim gas lights flickering. Men wore derby hats and four-button suits. It was rather a strange world of sideburns, beards, and fancy mustaches, very fancy beards and fancy mustaches people were having, men were having, women were wearing very different kind of dresses. And all this confirms him that it is the third level. Do you think that the third level was a medium of escape for Charlie, and why? This is the first question in your textbook. We will see. Was it really the escape from the from the reality? We will see. The fears, the anxieties, worries, insecurities, harsh realities of the modern world are taking a toll on man's mind. Yes, they're taking a toll means they're disturbing the mental status of men, people. Constant fears were there, wars were going on, there were, insecurities also. He feels helpless. Charlie feels helpless and he's frustrated. And he seeks temporary respite, means temporary refuge from this realities. Charlie too was unable to cope up with his, fast-paced and stressful life. He was tired of his, fast-paced means high-speed life, constantly running around from home to office and then again back. He was kind of stressed. And so his flight to the third level was undoubtedly a medium of escape. There was no doubt. He wanted to run away from all these harsh realities. And the third level is undoubtedly a medium of escape for him. It is nothing but a creation of Charlie's own mind. Yes, I told you, it is an imagination. It is the dream. It is nothing real. He wants to escape from the modern world insecurities, fears, worries, and stress, and so seeks an exit, a medium to get away into the world of dreams and fancies. So, third level is nothing but a runaway, a road, an exit to the medium to get away from the world, from these realities to the world of dreams and fancies. So, very much the third level was a medium of escape for Charlie. What made Charlie believe that he was actually standing at the third level? How he believed that, yes, this is the third level. He confirms. What was the proof? Let us see. One night, Charlie worked late at the office. He was in a hurry to get to his apartment, so he decides to take the subway from the Grand Central. He ducked into an arched doorway. Arched doorway means there was a curved doorway, and the doorway was a small doorway, so he had to bend down. He ducked, and then he got lost. He walked down the steps to the second level, turned left, kept on walking. He came to the third level at the Grand Central Station. This was very different, old and old world. Romantic means in those period. So he was convinced that he was actually standing at the third level. There were very few ticket windows. These were made up of wood, and they were old fashioned. They were looking old.
Sir, can you
There,
scroll up just a little? Oh,
okay, now,
yeah, thank you.
yes. There were fewer ticket windows, and these windows were made up of wood, and they were old looking. There were open flame gas lights. He saw people with beards and mustaches, which were very fancy. Then he caught a glimpse of an old locomotive, an old train, and also saw an 1894 issue of the New World newspaper. Perhaps Charlie is under pressure to escape from the harsh world of realities. He would like to escape to the peaceful world of 1894. What kind of people did Charlie see at the third level? Having worked late at the office, Charlie decided to take a train back home. So he came to Grand Central Station, and from the second level, he got lost while ducking into the arc doorway and found himself inside a tunnel. This tunnel took him to another light of stairs, and there he found himself on the third level at the station. He compared to the second level, the third level had smaller rooms. There were very few ticket windows. There were very few train gates. Everyone was dressed in 1890 something. The dresses were like very different they were of 1890s. 1890 something means 1890, maybe some year, 94, 95, something like that. Then Charlie came across men and women wearing the 19th century dresses, because he's telling us about the last decade of 19th century, 1890s. Men sported fancy mustaches, beards, sideburns, tiny lapels, four-button suits, derby hats, pocket gold watches seemed to be in vogue, means they were old-fashioned. Women were wearing fancy cut sleeves, long skirts, high-button shoes. Charlie was confused to see people sporting old-fashioned clothes and hairstyles at the third level. And such kind of people he sees at the third level. How does Charlie make his description of the third level very realistic? How he confirms that he is in the third level, and how does he confirms? Let us see. To make his description of the third level very realistic, very natural, Charlie describes its minute details. He's comparing it to the second level of the Grand Central Station. He says the rooms here were smaller, there were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth was made up of wood. It was old fashioned. He also gives a detailed description about the people he saw at the third level. He speaks about their dresses. He says the people wore 19th century dresses. Many men had beards and sideburns and fancy mustaches. He also buys tickets to Galesburg, Illinois, thus making the reader believe that he was actually at the third level. So the description is given in such a realistic manner that we feel that actually he is at the third level. All minute description he is giving about the place. What is being inferred from Sam's letter to Charlie? What it tells us? Sam's letter to Charlie. Now, Sam's letter to Charlie, the date is 18 July 1894, 19th century, the last decade. It is written from Galesburg, Illinois, in response to Charlie's claim of having visited the third level. This is the answer to his visit to the third level. Sam, who is equally insecure, he also wishes the entire episode is true, as he too believes in the existence of the third level. There are some inferences made by the letter. The introductory part of the letter confirms Charlie's belief in the existence of the third level. If you remember, I got to wishing that you were right. See, I'm reading the letter. Then I got to believing you were right. And Charlie, it is true. I found the third level. So the letter tells us about that he has believed that there is the third level, existence of the third level. And there are some inferences made by the letter also. See, the introductory part of the letter confirms Charlie's belief in the third level. It also suggests that those who find the third level can travel to Galesburg. They can enjoy the festivities. They can enjoy the songs. You remember the letter says that people were singing songs. The song, he has mentioned the song also, Seeing Nellie Home. Then he has told us that people are sitting and playing the piano. So they are enjoying the festivities, they're enjoying the songs, they're enjoying the music, and it is the peaceful world of the 1890s. So the author uses Sam's letter as a unique combination of the real and fantasy world. Again, I'm telling y'all children, this is his imagination. Sam has not gone to Galesburg, but he feels that his grandfather has written a letter to Sam, and Sam is in Galesburg. And now Sam has believed that there is the existence of third level, and there is he's been to Galesburg, which is a very peaceful place, and now he's inviting this one, Charlie and Louisa, to come over there. So we can just imagine how stressful Charlie's life is, full of worries and insecurities, and how he wants to just run away. So he believes that even his psychiatrist friend has gone there, and he's inviting him over there. So is the lesson clear to everybody? Any doubt anyone wants to ask? Please read the lesson again, even if you don't have the textbook. Yes, Pratiksha, it is all imagination. How could the coin vendor confirm that he actually changed currency? Yes, but see, in reality, there are coin stores. Okay, near the Grand Central Station, there are coin stores where you can exchange the coins also. It is a reality. There are stores where there are coin stores. People have hobbies, different kind of hobbies. They also want to collect the old currency. So such stores are there, and where he goes and exchanges his money. When he comes in the real world, he goes to the coin vendor. So you're asking, how could the coin vendor confirm that he actually changed currency? Yes, because at the third level station, the clerk says the currency was very different. The currency was very different. So he says that you are giving me some fake currency and this is not the currency. So you better give me the currency which is the right one. Otherwise, I will give you to the police. Understood, Pratiksha?
So what I'm trying to ask is that if the psychiatrist friend wasn't missing and all that, how did at the end of the chapter they said that he confirmed that he had exchanged some $800? How was it possible?
Yes, you remember even Charlie has exchanged the dollars. Similarly, this fellow has also, this is all his imagination, Charlie's imagination. At the stamp and coin store he goes there at the store. I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old style currency. So he gets the information there. He gets the information there, and the store owner says that yes, the person naming Sam has also has exchanged $800. And he feels that he has taken this $800 to start his old business, the business of grains. Understood? Yeah. So this is the story. Doubt. It is a kind of, combination of reality and fantasy world. And that is how the author uses Sam's letter as a combination, because he is believing that there is the third level and all those things. I'll just clear Pratiksha's doubt. I'll try to tell in some other way. Now see the letter which is written by Sam. Sam tells Charlie that he has reached Galesburg and he invites Charlie and Louisa there. So when Charlie goes to the stamp and coin shop, he gets to know that Sam exchanged $800 for the old currency bills. Maybe Sam has exchanged, but here this is all Charlie's imagination. He confirms there, and he tells us that Sam has exchanged $800 for the old currency to establish his business in Galesburg. Besides, Sam was none other than Charlie's psychiatrist. That is what he is ending. Why? Sam was nobody. He was my psychiatrist. In spite of being a psychiatrist, he has gone to Galesburg. That means he also wants to escape from the harsh realities. Somehow he wants to convince that thing. And that's why he tells that Sam is also there in Galesburg in spite of being a psychiatrist. So everybody understood the story. Shall we end here? We'll start the deep waters in the next class. Deep water is nothing but the experience of the author, how he learned swimming, how he was scared of water. That is all been told in the Deep Water by William Douglas. We'll see the story of deep water in the next class. Okay, then bye everyone.
Bye, sir. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. Yes. We'll end the class here. Okay, bye everyone. Thank you.